delays on my end. I hope this is coming through. I'm actually going to keep an eye this time to see who's in here. If you could just give me some sort of a thumbs up and let me know if we're working properly here. My name is Joel, coming to you from a bakery, a Cuban bakery in Little Havana, near in my city of Miami. And their Wi-Fi wasn't working, so I had to do it through a hotspot, and I don't know how stable this is. So let me jump right into the questions, and we'll go from there. But if anyone who's on here could give me a thumbs up or something so that I know that I'm getting through to folks, that would be fantastic. All right, first question we have is from Sam Nikah. I hope I pronounced that right. It's Nikkkhah, Nikah. All right. The question is, can I register an LLC and offer different brands under it? Here's a description. In e-commerce, can I register an LLC, for example, X, and sell different brands like Jack and Jane under it? How do I associate them with the LLC? And does the website address matter if it's under Jack or Jane rather than X? So, Sam, I have this exact situation personally. I own a lot of different businesses and different brands. And the way that I do this, sorry, I got stuck here. Emily, thank you for the thumbs up. Now I know we're working. I hope you can hear me okay. All right. So yeah, there's a way I do it, Sam. And it depends what your concern is. Is your concern from a legal perspective, or is your concern just for your own bookkeeping, for your own protection? So there's something called a DBA, doing business as, that you can file with your state. Most states, I'm sure it's either free or costs less than $50. The way that I use this, I'll give you an example. I own a company called Priority Fulfillment. It's a fulfillment center. You can look it up on priorityfulfillment.com. I have not created that as its own corporation. It's not its own LLC. Instead, it's a brand owned by my parent company. And my parent company owns something like 25 different brands and or businesses. And that's just an internal thing. That's just the way you set it up. If you get a check or some form of payment for Jack and Jane, like your example, which are brands, and you don't want to have a bank account and a whole corporation for Jack and Jane and all of those, that's fine. You just need to file a DBA, doing business as, and the parent company, in your example, X will own Jack and X will own Jane. You have two DBAs, Jack and Jane, but owned by company X. When you do that, your bank will require that, and now any payment that comes in for Jack or Jane is okay. It's linked to X. Now, it gets more. Kimberly Vincent, thank you for commenting on the quality of the sound. I'm glad if you're just joining, I'm on the road, so I don't have great quality internet or sound. Hopefully it is good. So to finish that question off, what I do is to take it to a step further, just so you understand something. So I own apparel brands, and I don't. That's one of my most valuable assets, is holding these valuable. To me, they're valuable, these brands, and I can never risk losing them, right? So I don't want anybody to ever be able to sue me for them or touch them or anything. So those are held in a separate LLC that I own over here that does business with no one, right? So you can't sue that company because nobody's ever done business with it. The only one who does business with that licensing company that I own is one of my companies, and they're the only two that do business, and they're treated separately. So the brands are here, and this company that owns them, which I own, charges an annual fee for licensing those brands to my operating company. So if you sue me on this side and my operating company, you could get a little bit of money, but you're not going to get the valuable things, which are the brands. So that's just a legal way of protecting yourself. You lease the rights to use those brands back to yourself. You have to do this through an attorney, and you have to be very careful. And you can't commingle funds. You can't have one bank account. They've got to be separate. There's a veil that said in legal terms that you can't pierce the veil. You can't show that you're running the two businesses really just to trick the system. You've got to completely separate them, have separate bookkeeping, all of that. But I think your question is simple enough. Set up one LLC. One LLC could then own other companies. Obviously, run this through an attorney, but it could own other companies. It could definitely own other brands. That's how we do it. Hope that helps, Sam. All right, and the next question comes to us from Brad Coleman, and he's got an interesting question. It's a really hard question to answer. It's, do you think it is important to have a face behind the brand? Hello, I own a luxury e-commerce brand, and I want to know if it's important to you to have a face behind the brand, meaning behind the scene videos, introductions, etc. So your customer knows who they're buying from. I don't plan on staying anonymous, but right now I am still small and don't have a lot to show behind the scenes that I want to show. So the reason I think this is a tough question, Brad, is because, man, it matters. So many different things matter. Here's an example. If you want to buy a house with a pool, you have in your mind what that pool is going to look like, right? So maybe you like a big rectangular pool, right? But these people built the house with a pool, but they built a round pool. And now to you, that house is worthless. You're not going to put an offer on it, no matter how cheap they go, because that's not your vision of it. And someone else might come around and they want a pool that's round. And for them, it's worth it. But you cut out half your market because half the people want a rectangular pool, the other ones want a round pool. So I believe, and this is very personal. It's just up to you. It's however you want to do it, and get advice from a lot of people. I don't like myself behind the brand of things because I don't happen to be a great salesman. I'm an introvert. I don't, go out and sell, sell, sell. That's just not me. So I'm not the right person, I think, usually to be behind certain things. On top of that, here's the main reason. You could read a book, like let's say a novel or something, and you can read that and find it to be extremely fascinating. And in your mind, you're painting a picture of how great this book is and what it looks like. And then you go watch the movie, and it's not quite the same, right? And you lose. But you already read the book, so you're already a customer. But for you, you want an ongoing customer. If you don't rub them the right way, you could lose that customer for life. So that's my fear. That what if you're not the right person to be the face of that? Now, if you are, then fantastic. There's so many examples of this really working. There's apparel companies, there's e-commerce companies where the founder goes live on Instagram and talks about the brand, and it takes off and explodes. So if you're confident that you're the person to be behind it and pushing that, then go for it. But again, like with everything else, I always say what works for me. It's not the right answer, it's what's worked for me. And maybe it's the wrong answer. Maybe I should have gone a different route. But all I can do is share what I've done and how I approach things, and hopefully from there you can talk to more people. Let's see. Next question is coming to us from Christopher Joseph. When picking a name for a product slash company, would a name in which Google tries to suggest something else, as in, did you mean so and so? Because there are minimal accurate results, be advantageous or disadvantageous. That's a tough one. It would help to have a screenshot of what this is, but let's see. Here's more detail to that. We are looking to pick a name for our company, and one of the options produces no results, and thus Google searches for what it thinks is a better search. Is this an advantageous situation in that when we register the name, we will be at the top of the hit because there is nothing else that name or nothing like that name is at disadvantage because Google will always try to search something more relevant, and this give us little to any traffic in regards to SEO. I don't think this matters, Christopher. There's so many businesses out there whose names sound ridiculous. They don't sound ridiculous once they build the name, but initially starting out, who's ever heard of them, right? So once you build that, if you have the .com name, I'm sure that'll help with SEO, although that's not the biggest determining factor. It used to be, I heard in the 90s, if you owned a certain name, that would be at the top of the list every time. Now it's more, I believe, from SEO, it's more of the content that you provide, the backlinks, and how you build that business. But here's the most important thing. I have a few things that I check off before I create a brand. And again, I have more than 20 brands. Most of those are registered trademarks with the U.S. government. So first I go to uspto.gov. That's number one. Or I guess there's no order. You got to do all of these. uspto.gov and do a trademark search and look for it and look see who if anybody has that name. You're going to find a lot of information. It's super educational. U.S. like United States. PTO. That's U.S. Patent and Trademark Office.gov. uspto.gov. So start your search there. Number two is the domain name. Obviously, the domain name has to be available. You can get that through GoDaddy or any of these sites. And lastly, a lot of Google searches. Look for everything that you can find on Google, and not just page one of Google. Keep looking, dig really deep. Once you pass those three, I think it's pretty safe to register that name. And if nobody has that word and it doesn't exist and you created that word, you're probably well off. That's probably better because the internet, as you know, is very cluttered. And if you can stand out with a different name, that's fantastic. And hopefully it's a short name. not a lot of syllables, easy to remember. But then again, it depends. Are you going to have people coming through organically, and they're going to find you, or are they going to know about you and type in your business name? Hope that helps. All right, we have another question from Sam Nikab, and that one is, what do you think the best method to learning e-commerce is? Drop shipping, question mark, getting a small inventory and doing it yourself, or something else? Here's more background. As I spoke about it to Sean, I want to learn e-commerce. Ever since that time, I've thought about dropshipping, which, although has its benefits, has a huge language barrier problem, and most manufacturers don't custom design. On the other hand, getting my own inventory requires storage and more work. Is there any advice or suggestions? Sam, I have not found, and again, there are exceptions to this, but I have not found tremendous growth and value to a business that dropships. Why? Because you're never selling your own product. You're just advertising for other people's things. So think about that. If you're really trying to build something with value, you're going to want to build it yourself. And yes, if you are doing it for yourself, that's going to require investment. You're going to have to pre-order all these products, store them, uh, ship them when they come, unless you hire a third-party fulfillment center to do all of that for you. And that's an expense, but it's a lot easier usually to go to a third-party fulfillment center if they are doing it right than it is for you to learn how to do that and do it the wrong way for many years until you finally get up to that. So maybe doing it yourself, hiring a third-party fulfillment center. Obviously, I'm biased because I have a third-party fulfillment center that I offer that service to people with, but you could learn from them, maybe use it for a year or two, and then decide, is this something I want to take on? Do I want to open my own warehouse, have my own staff, you know, do all the shipping and that sort of thing? So, yeah, you've got it down. You know the advantages. Drop shipping is quick, easy, but it's not going to build a lot of value for you, and you don't have a lot of control. What if the factory or the company is shipping delayed and they're making your customers unhappy? Your customers don't care where it's coming from. They just want it on time at the time that they purchased it. So keep that in mind. Next question is from Chris Sadat. This question is, where can I sell a non-profitable drop shipping e-commerce store? And is it possible to sell a non-profitable store? We'll be shutting down my e-com store and moving on to a new venture. So this goes, look at that. I didn't plan this, but that's the way these questions were given to me. Chris, you see that how I just answered Sam's question about drop shipping? Again, I don't see a lot of value to drop shipping websites because all that a drop shipper is doing is compiling products that are offered by someone else that you can go buy direct nowadays. We don't need multi-levels anymore like we did maybe in the 80s and before. Now you can go direct to the source. So drop shipping companies are becoming less valuable. As far as can you sell it? Sure, you can try. There's a marketplace for everything. If it's a Shopify store, there's a Shopify marketplace. I've bought businesses through there with their domain names. You can try that. You can list it everywhere that you can think of. You can put it out there. Maybe there's somebody who sees value in it, but if it's not profitable, you'd have to have an amazing name or something that has value that maybe you can sell it to that person. But I don't see it. You don't have a lot of like intrinsic value and goodwill because something could be not profitable but have a lot of inventory. It could have a great domain name. It could come with a lot of great employees and a team and a system, software that the company owns. That's where value comes from, in my opinion. And if you're not profitable and it's not doing much, it's not going to attract too many people's attention. However, don't give up. I would try to sell it. I'd put it on some marketplaces and then spread the word and try to get whatever I could for it. All right, and we only have one more question, and that is from Nico Garcia. Should I go out to seek a co-founder who is more knowledgeable in business and a successful entrepreneur? So the question is to look for, okay, this is worded a little funny. So seeking a co-founder who's more knowledgeable in business. Here's the background. My product's a unique storage jar for the cannabis industry. I'm a one-man band without any formal education or background in business. Sometimes I feel like I should have someone on the team who has already led a successful business/brand to help lead the way. I'm more of a creative who tends to focus more on the brand and innovation of the product rather than the business side of it. Okay, different approaches here, Nico. One thing to keep in mind is I really believe in the fractional role of people. I don't think that, and there are exceptions to this. There sometimes you need someone there 50 hours a week at your side helping you grow the business. I get that, but I've helped companies hire, for example, in the last year, I helped the company hire a tremendous CFO. They were considering hiring a full-time CFO. That would have cost them, I don't know, $200,000 for the level of experienced CFO that they needed. What they ended up doing, at my suggestion and my help interviewing through the process and that sort of thing, they ended up hiring a CFO for something like $50,000 a year. And how'd that happen? Well, they didn't need that person to be there. They didn't need him to have an office. That person, that CFO can go ahead and help four, five, six other, seven other clients. They just needed the best of his time and the best of his ability for a few hours a week, and that's it. So you're still going to get the absolute best from that person, regardless of whether you're paying him full time and having him sit next to you, or whether you're just having him come in to give you top level advice when most needed. So keep that in mind. And this could look several ways. It could be a partner. You may not have to give 50% up. It could be finding a network of mentors. It could be hiring a coach. It could be a lot of different ways where you may not even have to give up equity, like a mentor or a coach. And they could give you what you're missing. So you say you don't have education and formal education or background in business. I'm not so worried about the formal education. I don't have a business degree, and neither do a lot of successful people. A lot of successful people don't even have a degree at all. So don't worry about education. The background in business is the big one. It's where you have to have experience. You can either go out and get that on your own and keep trying and crack at it, and when you get stuck, go to those mentors, go to the coach, go to people who you trust and who've had success so that you can ask them questions. Now, if you do that and it's just not your thing, and you want somebody to just handle the other stuff, you don't want to touch it, that's where you need a partner. And be very careful. This isn't about hiring a friend. This is about hiring someone with a proven track record, who's serious, who knows what they're doing, who's going to come in potentially with money so they can help. Um, Otherwise, if you don't have money and they don't have money, you guys are stuck and you're just trying to figure out how you get some money coming in. So that could be a potential solution. Just think of it this way: there's no right answer. There's definitely no, even when you find what the best answer is for you, then there's like 20 ways to skin that cat. There's not one way of doing it. Go with the flow, figure it out. But look, last thing I'll say is, because I do understand creative folks, or I understand that they exist, and I hire and I employ designers in fashion and for user experience on websites and for different things. I understand that you guys think differently than the typical business person. So my recommendation there is to each one be responsible for their things, right? So if you're the creative, you run the creative. And if the other person is taking care of finances and business development and all those things, let them do that. You guys can always discuss and make sure you're on the same page, but try to not step on each other's toes. So the idea there, make sure you don't hire some creative person who's just like you, because if you and I are the same, then one of us is definitely not needed, and that doesn't work. Now, you might think, well, it's a creative, but they worked in their parents' business for a few years. Be careful. Look for someone with a real track record of proven success. All right, guys. I hope that helps. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for your patience, as it took me a little while to log on here because of the travel and the internet debacle I was having right before we logged on. Thanks a lot. I hope you guys have a great day.